Welcome, everyone, to the Ghost Helpers podcast. I'm your host, Tina Erwin, and I'm starting a new series on psychic children, psychic people. And I have a co host, Charity Dawson Lawrence. And she wrote the foreword for part two of the Psychic Children, Psychic People book because she has a psychic child. So I felt she is the perfect one to begin this series where we talk about being a parent of a psychic child to someone who is human. So, Charity, welcome. Are you excited?
Hi, I am. And I'm, again, so honored to be a part of this, Tina.
Well, I mean, it's what we can do to help people understand what's going on in their families. And so, as we start this, we will be putting this, when I get this all edited and everything, this will go on the ghosthelpers.com website of the videos. And I'll put it on LinkedIn and we'll put it in a couple places. And then if I give you the link, you could put it on Facebook if you're a part of that. So our goal is to help answer questions. And if you have a question, send the question to me at contact@ghosthelpers.com. All right, let's get started. So Charity, tell me let's tell our audience, our listening audience, what happened to you and how did it come about that we got connected as we start this really fun process?
Well, let's see. Well, my life changed about 4 years ago when I had put the children to bed and I was saying my last goodbye to my daughter. And I'm sitting in her bed and I'm talking to her and I'm looking directly at my son's room, who was about, oh gosh, like around 7 at that time. So it was about 4 years ago. And I see this little apparition ghost boy running into his room with his arms like this, running really fast. And he was little, we'll say like 5, 6 years old. It appeared to be in height. And he had dark hair and he had a white peasant style top on. Because I'll never forget seeing it like cut in at the waist and like coming out, right? And so I jumped out of my daughter's bed and I ran into Eli's room and he's asleep. And I was like, what did I just see? It was shocking because I had never really seen anything like that. Never wanted to see. Always a fear of mine. Don't want to live in a haunted house. Don't want to see a ghost. I don't like surprises. And all of a sudden, whammo. So after that, I was living in my home and scared. And so then I'm, researching online, like how to rid your house of ghosts, right? And it's, I'm banging pots and pans, ringing bells, saging the house, praying in every room. And the activity only intensified. I think
Oh,
at
wow.
that point, now he was like, oh, they can finally see me now. Doors are closing. My daughter was in the shower at one point, and the slider just opened on her, things falling off the kids' walls. And I kept it a secret because I didn't want to scare them. And I was living in my home and scared to come here or scared to be alone in here. And so the final straw was when I had put Eli to bed one night and he came out into my room and he said, Mom, I'm scared. And I said, well, what are you scared of, buddy? And he goes, something was touching me. And I said, well, okay, were you watching like scary YouTube or something? And he's like, no. Because I'm thinking, okay, he's making this up, right? And I said, well, what did it feel like? And he poked my shoulder like this. I was like, oh, I'm sure it's nothing. Go back to bed. Oh my God. Oh my God. What the heck? What the heck? That's when I lost it. I was like, I don't even know what to do. So I'm doing more research, whatever, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just go to the metaphysical store here in town. I don't know. I was raised in this very conservative Christian home where, going to sort of like this, crystals, whatnot, that's a no no. Big no no. We don't do that, right? But I was at a loss. So I was willing to do pretty much anything. So I walked in there, and the gentleman at the counter looked at me, and I was like, "Hi, I need help." He said, "Well, what's going on?" I'm like, "I have a ghost in my house." And he's like, "Okay, well, let's get you some dragon's blood. Let's, these few other things." And he said, "Well, you should really talk to a medium here." And I was like, "Okay, well, will she come to my house and help me?" And he said, "Yeah, but meet with her first." Okay, fine. Set an appointment. A few days later, meet with her. And I sat down, and she's like, "What do you need?" And I said, "Well, I have a little ghost boy in my house." She's like, "Hmm." And she said, "Could be attracted." I said, I saw it go into my son's room, and then it touched my son. And she said, "Well, it could be attracted to him. Can I see a picture of your kid?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Why?" And she said, "Well, let me just look at him." So I show her a picture of him, and she's like, "Meh." She's reading him, right? And she's saying, "Looks like he has the makings of a medium." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I can help you with him. But I can also come to your house and help you clear your home of whatever may be there." Okay, sure, great. Come to my home. I'm like, what are you? What? What? I have no idea what you're talking about. This is foreign language. So sure enough, she came to the house. There was the ghost little boy here. There was also the great grandpa that passed away in here, and like a great grandma. And we crossed them over. I was with her, went through the whole house, and after that, I felt peaceful. But it's just that it was just never ending after that, right? Got rid of this group, and then here comes more, and that was the start of not only understanding this world, but going on my own spiritual journey and trying to understand what is this all about? What is life all about? What the other side, ghosts? Like I didn't, I thought we'd have we go to heaven. That's it. I didn't know about lingering things and whatnot. But anyway, that's the beginning of the story, I guess. And oh wait, how I met you. So anyway, it was quiet for quite a while. And then Eli would say, "Mom, I'm scared. Mom, I don't want to go down there. Mom, something bad is here." And just the whole vibe of the house felt really dark. And just things, ghosts kept coming in. And at this point, I was able to talk to Eli to figure out who was in the house. I would ask him, "Hey, is there somebody here?" And he would say yes or no. And it was just nonstop. And there was one particular ghost here that he was communicating with, and my medium friend at the time, who's now passed away, she couldn't move him on. That's a whole other story. But she's like, I'm trying, like he's not leaving. I'm like, get this guy out of here because he's not a good guy. I live near Folsom Prison. He was from the prison, hanging out at my house. And that's when I reached out to you, Tina, because I had, through my journey, listened to a lot of podcasts trying to understand this world, and I came across yours, and yours had the most important information and clarity on it. And I at one point heard your podcast, and you mentioned remote viewing. I was like, well, maybe she'll remote view my house. Maybe she can help me because nobody can help me. And I sent you an email, and you replied right away. And we connected, and that was incredible because you helped me in so many ways.
Well, that was a good thing. All right, so let's back up just a little bit. Until that night with your when you're saying, you're doing your I call it the bedtime routine with kids.
Uh-huh.
And it's a really, just as an aside, the bedtime routine helps children know that they live in a safe world. You read a story or you sit down and you ask them about their day, and it's quiet and it's private, and they tell you things or you observe things, and it establishes a feeling of security and stability in a child's life. So at the moment that you saw this ghost child run into your son's room, was that the first time? I think you said this. It's the first time you'd ever seen a ghost, right?
Looking back as a child, my brother and I both had an experience that it was one of those things where we shared a room and we were very young. And it was like, "Did you see that lady in our doorway?" And he's like, "Yes." I'm like, I did too, Mom. And then Mom asked Mom. I'm like, yeah, you guys talked about it. But besides that, no, never.
All right. So when you and your brother saw a ghost in your room, how old were you?
Oh gosh, it's hard to say. How about younger than second or first grade? I was young,
Okay, 5 or 6.
probably.
Okay. All right. So that helps establish that in in a lifetime timeline, some of the first indications are that you have any latent psychic ability are you see something as a child. I mean, I didn't see human ghosts. I saw a cat ghost, but that I didn't see anything after that for many years. And you didn't see anything after that for many years
Mm-mm.
until you're an adult, you have a family, and you have a child and who's 7. And this little boy and the ghost child, your son and the ghost child, are near the same age. And there is some sort of magnetic attraction between them. And when you have such an attraction, it's people say, well, why my child? Why did it happen in my house? Sometimes there's no logical explanation other than the concept of resonance. You know, the old thing we used to say in the South, birds of a feather flock together. Well, if there's some element about the ghost that the ghost could see something in your son or your house, that's another thing, something about your house, or it could be something about you. Having had children, those children hang around the house because they like the mom. I've seen that happen a couple of times. So when you first saw this ghost, it wasn't your first ghost, but it was your first ghost as an adult. And had you ever noticed that your son had psychic ability before that particular time?
I no, no. Other than when he was a baby, he cried a lot, and he was attached to me. I couldn't put that kid down for years. He was very attached, and I thought, okay, your older sister was never like this. What is wrong with this kid? Like, I don't, I still to this day don't really quite understand. I think to myself, maybe he was seeing things as a baby, and I didn't know that, and that's why maybe he clung to me because he was seeing things that I didn't know. But other than that, no.
Well, I've seen babies, newborns who can see, and they don't stop crying until, and again, it's very difficult unless you're remote viewing and you can see that, oh, that's what this child's seeing. Or sometimes they're of interest to the other side, and you're not going to know that. So if you have a child that's clinging to you, and if you happen to notice that their room is extra cold, no matter how much you heat it, that's an indication that it's a potential indication there can be somebody there that you may not have any idea has shown up. And it may not, that being may not have been there before. So it goes to how bizarre it can become.
Definitely now that I'm more aware, more in tune with myself and my surroundings, definitely now I can pick up on things. But before I kind of was aloof to everything and like, dirt, 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 right? But now I'm way more in tune.
All right, well, then this is a great opportunity to explain that if you are a parent of a psychic child and you accept that your child can see something in the ether, which is where string theory exists and quantum entanglement exists in the ether. So this is getting more and more mainstream publicity, and we're no longer feeling like we're all, oh my gosh, you're really out there. Not so much. This is now entering the realm of now we can understand what a ghost is. Now we can understand that a parent whose child all of a sudden wakes up one day and can do this, and they feel as if someone, you know, turned on a switch. And I think that that's what happened for them years. All of a sudden, one day, it's almost like it's a spiritual timing. Maybe that's the best explanation. And whereas before you couldn't see her do anything, someone goes, "Oh, it's time for this person to learn how to look at this, or to open up their mind a little bit more." And you had no idea you were embarking on a spiritual path. And that's
No,
what usually happens. And if you embrace the path, oh, it's so much easier on you.
it
It's
definitely, like, that moment changed me, my home, my children. I now am stepping into this new journey, and I myself know that I have abilities. We all do, right? But like, I've definitely tapped into mine, and now I'm a different mother to these children who have abilities, and I understand, and I'm a support, and I don't ever think they're crazy. If they tell me anything, I trust my kids. If they tell me anything, I'm like, okay, makes sense. Like, yeah, I get it.
all right. Well, one of the reasons that I was really excited about having you write this section of the Psychic Kids, Psychic People book was because you have not spent your life studying mediumship. Let's tell our audience what you do for a living.
Oh, um, I do hair, so I'm a therapist. Therapist. I do hair, and I have for, gosh, 20 years now, and it's
So you make the
incredible.
world a more beautiful place.
Yes, I try.
You
I try my
try. Okay.
hardest.
So the point I'm making is, and what does your husband do?
He's a firefighter.
All right. So you are two very down to earth people living your basic life with you're building your family and you're living your life and going through the normal routine of life, and something happens that opens a doorway and you didn't know there was a door there. I think that's one of the things that's so perfect. It looks like this was your life, and then something goes, "Oh, we're going to introduce you to something that's going to be, a little bit mind blowing. You're going to have to come to terms with this now. And if you do, then it's going to change your life, but for in a really good way."
In such a better way. I can't
Okay.
imagine living the old life. This
All
way
right. Well,
is.
expand on that just a little bit because that's a really good point.
Oh gosh. It's helped me to understand the connection we all have. It's made me look at life through a different lens and why things happen. It's no longer like, oh, poor you, this horrible thing happened. And my attitude is like, wow, what a great opportunity. Right? This is your life. This is the path that you've chosen to live. And there's a reason why. There's no longer the fear of death. I don't fear death. And I talk openly about my with it to my children. Um, I mean, the more you become in tune with yourself and your surroundings, the more synchronicities happen, the more you become connected to new people in your life, right? When somebody feels like you've known them forever, right? Like, now I can identify that. Like, you've been in my life before. This feels right. When things feel right and when things feel off. Um, I don't live in shame anymore. Not going to church. The shame I felt from that was awful, and that's gone. And I had a friend ask me not too long ago, like, "Are you going to church?" And I said, "No." She's like, "Wow, I really thought you'd be going more through your divorce and all that." And I said, "You know what? I'm more connected now to God than I ever was being in that building." It's a freeing feeling. I let go of the judgment. Like, judgment, criticism, it's gone. There's only love and compassion now.
That is a that's a very remarkable story. I have to say that it very much mirrors my own. and the feeling that these things happen to me for a reason, but I didn't understand the reason. And we stopped going to church when I was a small child because the priest, I mean, when you're 9 years old and all you do is take care of your three other siblings, how much sin are you committing? But he told me I was a sinner and I had to pray. And my parents were practicing birth control. I'm 9 years old. I don't know what that means. And that he told me they were going to hell.
Ugh.
And I felt I didn't know what the word was at 9 years old, but it felt like I was being abused. And my family left the church after that because that direct influence on a child was very detrimental. And when you have these experiences, instead of fighting them or, worried, people are going to think you're strange. I don't care. I
I don't
mean,
care either. I
I
don't
just
care.
don't care because when you embrace the concept of the service of helping a ghost, especially a child that you encountered had no idea what to do. And the other ghost that your friend who was the medium helped and helped them cross over. Well, that was wonderful spiritual service. And when you're very forthright with your children about what's happening, and you're not afraid because children take their cue from you. And one of the things you said that really warmed my heart was that you trust your children. Parents
100%.
who trust their children, especially their preteens and their teens, find that, yeah, teenage years are challenging and rewarding. I look back at my kids' teenage years with a great deal of happiness. We did a lot of things together. We talked about everything. It was an amazing time. And then when you blink and my oldest son is 46. So you blink and now you're looking at his children and you look at how he's doing the things that you did that were kind and loving. And that's that moving forward through the generations, which is very renewing and gratifying. And when you're developing your intuitive ability and you realize that, yeah, you, I think I've known you before, and you were pretty awful then, and pretty much the same right now. Or,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, I found you again. I met
Mm-hmm.
when we lived in Italy. We had a friend who lived down the street from us in an apartment, and she'd lived in Italy, I don't know, 35 years. She was an American, but she'd married an Italian. And when I met her, it was so familiar. It was an instantaneous love. We knew each other from another place, and I just adored her. She taught me how you can grow older with grace and excitement and being alive till the very last second. And I felt she was an amazing teacher. And when you're in touch with who you are and what you want for your life, and maybe you're still figuring out what you want for your life, but what I'm hearing from you is you want your life to be honest. This is what's happened to me. I'm not going to hide it. Yeah, I saw a ghost. It doesn't make me crazy. It makes me understand physics a whole lot more on a
Right.
whole lot other level. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. So that child died. Well, what's interesting is ghosts don't know what year it is. For them, they're in a spiritual doulu. Maybe that child lived on that piece of property all those years ago, and something happened and the child died. So they're frozen in time and space at the place where they died. They may not understand they're dead, or if they do, they're not quite sure what they're supposed to do
And
next.
at first, when I would get, ghosts coming and going, um, I was pissed. I was so mad. Like, get out of my house, right? And then through listening to you, I got the compassion for them. They're scared. they're lost. The little kids, especially, they don't know where mommy and daddy are. And they're scared. And I've talked to so many of them and helped them cross over. And it is a wild experience, and it's an amazing experience to help somebody. Just because you can't see them in the physical form, they're a soul, right? There's still a soul there. And to be able to help a soul, it's pretty wild.
Well, it's a privilege, and that's why I wrote the Crossing Over Prayer book,
Love that
because
one. Love them all.
I don't think you should have to pay a medium to cross over a ghost. I believe that if it's your grandmother or your child or even your dog, you should have the power through the dynamic of prayer to cross them over in a way that is very, very, very important and gives you the power to have dominion over your life through the compassionate act of crossing over a ghost. And it's when you realize you can do this, it's like someone opens this big door and all this fresh air comes. I don't know how quite else to describe it, because here's another little, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Every time any person crosses over a soul, you're exposing yourself to the light of God. And that's not something I think most of us think about. You say the cross-over prayer, which means you're immediately connecting to the divine. You're embracing angels, you're asking angels for help, you're incurring this positive karma of bringing these angels in, the wonderful karma of the compassion of crossing over this ghost. Maybe this was a terrible ghost. I mean, let's face it, the world is not all made of wonderful people. Sometimes there's some really awful folks out there. When you cross them over without prejudice or judgment, doesn't matter who they are or what they did. Thank goodness it's not ours to judge them.
No. Yeah.
Then you have raised yourself up, and that cannot help but help you karmically go to other higher levels. When you're doing it constantly, you're connecting to the divine. When you said that you felt like your house was a ghost superhighway after you embraced the concepts, the same thing happened to me. I remember talking to my brother about it. I said, I feel like there's a sign outside the house that says ghosts enter here. And I at that point I had 6 suicides standing in my living room. It's like,
Oh
oh my
gosh.
gosh, where did these people come from? I mean, the house where we lived was the first house to ever be on that property. It had been Native Americans before that, so there, and it was not a burial ground; it was a camping. It was a dwelling ground. So I didn't understand it, and I came to realize it wasn't, in this case, it wasn't the property with me personally. I was this beacon, and that takes us to, okay, you and your child or children, what happens when they become a beacon? So, have you developed a type of relationship with your son where you work together to call someone?
Oh, we work together a lot. He's at the point now where I have to be careful not to bother him. And doing what I do and being open, now my clients are asking me for, hey, I have this situation, or my kid's experiencing this. My kid can't sleep at night. They see scary things. So I'm there to help out and assist with that. Thanks to you and all of your wonderful tips, and I love helping. So I want to help. And then I just got a text the other day from somebody like, hey, so and so thinks they might have such and such in their house. Can you help them? Or yes, that's me. Reach out anytime. I love doing it. With the help of Eli, I can communicate because on my own, I cannot hear them. but he can. And so a lot of the times, if there's a situation, I need to bring him in just to help me communicate. Maybe someday I can do it myself. I don't know, but I do need to bother him for that. And he's at the age now, he's like, "Ugh, Mom."
Well, it may be that what you may do is you may not have to employ his skill set. If someone tells you that they have a ghost, a lot of times you feel like you do need to have a conversation with the ghost, right?
Right.
Or because people, it's human nature. They're curious. Why is the ghost here?
Well,
What did
that's
they want?
me. I have so many questions and so many questions. So I definitely need to, like, yeah, not ask so much.
Well, I mean, I went through that too. Why are they here? What happened to
Yeah.
them? And the story. That's why I wrote 3 ghost story books, because there's so many
It's
stories.
pretty fascinating. The stories are fascinating.
Yeah, ghost stories from the ghost point of view, and it helps you to understand what that ghost is feeling and what happens to them when you cross them over. But after I've moved on an uncountable number, and I
It
mean,
just doesn't matter anymore.
I'm working right now to help to clear and cross over the victims of human trafficking.
Mm.
I don't want to hear those stories. I don't have that capacity, because you're hearing what you will hear. I do have clients who have been trafficked, and it's not something you want to repeat. You can only hear so much of it because I'm human and I'm a mom, and hearing it is very difficult. So if you're in a position where Eli's not available, simply cross them over and trust that whatever their story is, if you need to know it, you will. If you don't need to know it, it's okay. And
Yeah.
if you're writing down the stories, I mean, these are your stories. And as we know, some of the stories are just uh, really astounding. And what makes it even more astounding sometimes is the things that a lot of people can't leave their house, that makes it so difficult or so. Um, so, what were some of the first tools that you remember using to begin to raise the frequency? Because if you're going to do this, it's important to have a certain level of control over what is coming to you and keep the frequency of consciousness. So, what are some of the tools you're using?
Oh, let's see. First off, salt under the beds, for sure. That's um that's number one. Um, the crossing over prayers underneath bed and underneath the mattress. Um, I routinely use the resin and do dragon's blood and then follow with the frankincense and myrrh. Do a lot of that. Essential oils, having them going. Not all the time, but a lot of the times. Sweet orange oil, lavender. I don't have a whole bunch. Thanks to you, Tina, helping me out, or just
Well,
helping out in the
it
book. Right in Psychic Children,
has
you
all the
have, yes.
there's
So
so many
that's
tools.
amazing.
Did you use a green light bulb?
Green light bulb, yep, got those. Like what else?
Um, what happens though is the more you raise the frequency, the better it feels. The better it feels, the more you're working on raising frequency. And as you're doing that, it's putting you in a position where you're feeling, you can begin to feel the difference. And the higher you raise your frequency, it's an interesting phenomenon. Once your frequency starts to really rise, when you go into places that you might not have noticed before, you can tell that that frequency is significantly lower.
Oh, for
It
sure.
helps you differentiate what could be there and what is there, and that you may not really want to be there. And if you're explaining this to your children and helping them to understand when they get to an age where that feasible, there's something called a children's rule where you can't explain something to a child because once they know it, they're now karmically responsible for it. The child doesn't have the maturity level to be karmically responsible for something. You really can't tell them.
Oh, the other thing that I thought about that's very important that I do daily is clearing my home through prayer, visually, violet flame, salt, calling in the angels to protect. I do that every day.
That is extremely outstanding because I do that too. And people go, oh my gosh, your house feels so great. But yes, because it's psychically clean. I mean, I have a housekeeper who helps us with this house, and that's on the physical level. Cleanliness is next to godliness because it removes negativity. That's
Mm-hmm.
a really big deal. When you are psychically cleaning your home through violet flame and the use of salt and bringing in angels and bringing down white light,
Mm-hmm.
if you do it once or twice, it's like, did you bathe once or twice? No. You bathe, you're constantly washing off dead skin cells. Well, when you're psychically cleaning your house, you're constantly keeping it spiritually clean. And when it's a spiritually clean house, very, very hard for detrimental beings to enter your home and or ghosts. They have to work really, really hard, which kind of cuts down the volume. Now, the other thing when you have the crossing over prayer and they're available on ghosthelpers.com, there are crossing over prayer cards. And that's and or you can print them out that you can put between the mattresses. I carry them in my purse, they're in my luggage, they're in the car because you can end up being bombarded if you are spiritually open. And I think that we may not necessarily want to have people bombarded once they have awakened to this whole new world. And it is a new world. So, how has your husband felt about this?
Oh gosh, well, he's a firefighter and he's pretty not in tune anymore with much because of his career, but it's tricky. It's really hard. And in the beginning, I was so amped up and, sharing a lot. And then I started to step back. And it's at the point now where he sees me, he hears me talk to friends and whatnot, or I'll share a story now and then. And he now on his own, now I see him watching Instagrams of more spiritual things, right? Stuff that I look at. He's now like, oh, have you seen this? Right? So he's definitely opening up more. And this isn't quite so odd, but it's still, you know, still out there for him. But I don't know. I'm kind of a nag with him sometimes because when he's on a call, I'm like, babe, will you please just call in some angels to help them cross over? And he says, I'm not doing that. I'm like, please. But
Well, you know what you can do? I mean, I think this brings up a really good point because I would put, I mean, I don't know what he wears on the suit apparatus that he has to wear into a fire, but laminating the crossing over prayer card and putting it in a pocket
I'll have to
might be
sneak it in there.
literally sneak it in there
It's a good idea.
because one, it takes some pressure off of you, and two, it means that it makes a big difference. And our husbands go into harm's way sometimes, our spouses. And when we look at that, that's just life. I mean, when my husband was on submarines or surface ships, and he was captain of an oil rig. I mean, he had so many things happen to him. I mean, he had the he was on a research ship. that did ocean contour and current mapping for National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration. They had to go through the Gulf of Hormuz, and they were, chased by Somali pirates, and they had to fight off Iranian gunships. And when he was on the oil rig, they moved the rig and didn't tell the helicopter pilot, so they almost had to ditch at sea.
Mm.
And an oil rig is mountainously dangerous. You can't stop people from doing what it is that they do. You can't give them your fear. When you give them your confidence, and you automatically send a team of angels with them and their buddies, that's something you can do. I mean, whatever the fire station is, whenever they go out on a call, just send a squadron of angels with them. And you have the, I'll say the, I hate the word authority, but you have the authority to do that because you're doing it as an act of service, not only for the firefighters, the police, the support crew, but also those families and individuals who are at risk in this extreme situation. It also empowers you and your children. If your children say, "Oh, I'm worried about dad," so we're just going to send him angels. We're sending him our love and our confidence. When you give someone your confidence, not your fear, you empower them. When you give them your fear, you weaken them.
I recently, with a client, her daughter started driving and she's so nervous, my kid driving. And I said, you know what? Send her with the angels every day. And she said, oh, that's a good idea. It soothes you and it sends protection with your child.
That I did that with my kids. And I also, when your children start driving, it's one of the most challenging moments you have with teenagers. Everybody goes through it. But if you are terrified of what could happen, don't get in the car with them. I started my kids when they were 13. Sit them in the car, go over
Mm-hmm.
everything. And then we would back in and out of the driveway. We were on a private street, so we could do that, or go to a parking lot. And when you spend time with a child, this is a really spiritual concept. This isn't necessarily about ghosts, but it's giving your child strength, wisdom, and your belief in your child. One of the ghost stories in the, I think it's book 3, it's about what happens when families tell their children they're terrible drivers. Or, I'm so afraid when I'm in the car with you. You set your child up for an accident.
Right.
It was a horrendous accident in this book, this particular story. But when you set your child up and you give them the gift of your confidence and your belief in them, they're not going to want to disappoint you. And one night when my son, I couldn't believe that, he was 17 and driving. And he and my daughter went Christmas shopping at San Diego in the pouring rain. People in California don't know how to drive in the rain. It's a little bit scary, especially Southern California. And it was just torrential, but they were determined. And so they got in the van, and I looked at my daughter and I said, "Your brother is a truly outstanding driver. I want you to pay attention to how wise he is, how careful, and how measured he is in his driving. You're going to learn a lot from your brother. He's great." My son looked at me and he said, I know what you're doing. And I said, "Do you really?" He said,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah." So they get home, and James was exhausted, and he went into the house, and my daughter said, "Oh my gosh, Mom, you were right. James is a wonderful driver. I couldn't believe it. He's amazing." And that one comment I made, both of them remember that.
Right.
And so my son is starting to teach his 13-year-old daughter how to drive, just in their driveway. just learning how to back in and back out, building her confidence. And above all, when a parent spends time with a child, it is one of the greatest gifts a parent can give a child without criticism, with modest, gentle encouragement. And it causes the child to believe in themselves so that if they also happen to have psychic ability, then they
That's
can
what I
go
was
to
gonna say, is it makes me think about raising my children and believing in them and encouraging them and giving them tools to go through life. Um, if they're nervous about a presentation, call on your angels, buddy. Like, sis, you can do that, right? You're worried about a friend. Pray for them, send them angels, send them your love, right? And it gives them confidence, right? That they can take on anything and any
it.
scary situation. Any If you don't feel right in a home, call me, I'll come get you. If something doesn't feel right, trust that within you.
Yes, that is critical. There were several times when my kids said, "Come pick me up. This isn't working.
I at
I
3 in the
need to
morning
get
one
out
night,
of
had
here."
to go get my kid.
Yeah, this isn't
Mom, this is not right. Mom, please, please, I don't like it here.
well because you were open to it. You were welcoming them and praising them, and
Then
it
it was a weird conversation with the mom. Why, why I had to come get my kid at 3 in the morning? Uh, yeah, your kid's got some really bad things clinging onto them, and my kid can feel it and see it, and
right.
they had to go.
Oh yeah, it was. Yes,
Yes.
it's a tough thing sometimes.
It really is.
Okay, well we are. I think this is about 45 minutes or so, and I think we've covered a lot of ground today. Is there? And what I'd like to do is stop here and see if there's anything else you would like to add for this first show.
Oh gosh. I can't think of anything at the moment. I just encourage everyone to listen to your children. And it's hard when I hear people talk about their kids and seeing scary things and they just don't want to do anything about it. And I always go back to um what you've said in the past is why would you go outside in a winter storm without a jacket? Why would you subject your kid to things that you can remove yourself and help them and protect them? That is it's hard when people don't want to acknowledge it. And I don't know. I always think to myself too, like, okay, so your kid is seeing a scary ghost in their closet. If you could actually see the ghost, you wouldn't be happy about that because you can't see it. It's not a big deal, but your kid is scared. And I just encourage people to listen and take the step and not be fearful. Your book, The Psychic Healing, is phenomenal. Anybody that has any questions about psychic children, intuitive children, whatever, right? There's a big umbrella. That book is phenomenal, and the information in there is like no other, Tina, honestly.
Well, thank you. And it really is a book of service because when you're sharing the tools with someone else, then it gets to be paid forward and over and over again. And then people have confidence. And maybe it's how you heal the world, one person at a time. I mean, people want to have grandiose ideas, but if your family is feeling better about things, where they're embracing new ideas, and then they're not, you know, this is a difficult thing for them, you're giving other people courage to face something they might not have ever faced before or been afraid of. And when we remove fear, there's only, Neil Donald Walsh made a very interesting statement in Conversations with God. There's only two emotions, love and fear. Fear.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure I give that statement credit to Neil. There are only two emotions, love and fear. So if you're in fear, you're not in love. And
And you're not in control.
you're and sometimes, yes, there are some scary things. I've been there, done that. And when you take a deep breath and you reconnect to the divine and you bring in the angels and you feel the power that is now with you, think of what it does to your frequency over and over and over again. Connection to the divine. And that really is really a remarkable place to be. So, thank you, Charity. We're going
Thank
to
you,
do this.
Tina.
And again, if you have questions, contact at ghosthelpers.com will reach me and we will answer these questions on the air here. And I will be putting out the YouTube of this, so look for it. And there's a Ghost Helpers on YouTube, or look up Tina Erwin on YouTube, and there are lots and lots of videos with answering a whole bunch of questions. So, Charity, thank you for being with me. And until
Thank you.
when you cross over a ghost, remember it's the compassion you will want for yourself. Bye bye.
True. Bye.